All right, everybody, welcome to episode 3 of the 2025 BBA podcast. I am very excited and proud to have some folks from different parts of the country. I've got Aamir Ukani here and I've got Murtaza Dawoodbhai. I will quickly talk about how I know them. I'll give you guys an agenda for today's podcast and then we'll get started. So these guys were selected due to the main theme of today's discussion, which we're going to talk about major injuries, how we recovered, how we're back on the court, what was our driving force, what we did, and so forth. I've known these guys through BBA. I've known these guys outside of BBA as well, but it's definitely a magnet that keeps us in touch despite our distance, right? The main topics for today, we're going to go into the draft. I have the rules, regulations, the general overview. I'll talk about the lay of the land. I won't really go into subjectivity. We'll keep it as objective as possible. Then we'll have a fun little discussion of what Aamir and Murtaza think. And over the next few podcasts, I'm sure the draft will be a major topic. But the second part of today's show is going to go into what I mentioned, right? So around injuries. So without further ado, Aamir, if you can introduce yourself, where you're at, just give us a brief overview. And from there, we'll take it to Murtaza.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. My name's Aamir Ukani from Chicago. One of the OG BBAers. So we started, what is this? I think 2012, 2013. A few of us from Chicago, we just wanted to hoop. So we actually we got some refs, threw out some interest. And the first BBA we had put together was me, Tuza, Riz, and Ali Kanch. And we're just like, let's just play ball with some refs. That's it. That's honestly what we wanted to do. I think we had 40 people sign up, and I think it was, 30 from Chicago and 10 from Houston, essentially. And so from then on, it kind of, just blew up, and it's pretty amazing. Not in any of the like back end stuff anymore, but it's amazing to see how it's grown. So, and being able to stay kind of competitive and give my so to so to speak expertise to these young guns. So but yeah.
Don't be too modest. Give us a little bit about like some of your accolades, man. I know you're a multi-finalist, a multi-winner, MVP. Come on, man. Share the details.
Yeah, so took a while. I mean, the thing about BBA is you can come in, you know, 2013 we came in and we're like, oh, we're gonna run this, it's gonna be easy. Boring people can't hoop, So we came and it's very humbling no matter where, no matter what team you have, what you have on paper, BBA is extremely humbling. So it took a while for me to actually win. One championship. I forgot which year that was, but it was with Ali Rust, who was my
Telling
co-captain.
me you don't have it ingrained or tattooed on your arm.
Oh, no, 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 I
That's
got
like next to my children's birthdays.
Yeah, yeah. Got the we moved so many times, man. The trophy's somewhere, but that'll stay
Yeah.
in my mind forever, man.
It's keeping
Um,
your desk even right now.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then I had an MVP year. We lost in the final. That I remember because I feel like the losses hurt more, or like that those close losses hurt a lot more. So it was me and Yusuf, and we went against this team that was it was Qatari's first year. They had
Yeah, he just
basically
came out of
five
nowhere.
five captains on that team, and it was nuts. It was a grind, and we got our ass beat. So ended up being MVP that year, which it was bittersweet, but I'll remember that. And then the shirt I'm wearing was this was probably the sweetest accolade of them all. Just the city tournament was fun, man. It was the best of the best, and very ultra competitive. Being in Austin, you put it together, and it was a lot of fun. And we
Well, it
didn't win
wasn't
it,
sweet
but
for me, man. Part of your MVP was spanking us day 2,
yeah,
right?
that was a fun game.
Yeah, the
And
inner Sean Livingston just could not miss from anywhere within 12 to 15
well,
feet.
half of the fans was your family, so it was nice to see them just quiet down a little bit and just have
It
some
was nice
chai,
for
maybe
me
go
too.
home. Yeah, have
Your,
some
your
chai,
kids
go
re
home
your
and have a
kids
good
remember
day.
that most, so don't worry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
enough
it was
ruckus.
good, man. It was good, but I'm glad to be. I was on the fence to play this year again, and I'm glad to be back and kind of still going. So
Absolutely. I'm going to fact check you a little bit, though. We started in 2012. The only reason I could say that was because I tracked BBA with the year of Hamza's age. So I
Okay.
can't believe it went from his chutty to now he's going to be a teenager. It boggles my mind. So I think we were all in
2012.
our
Jeez.
20s then. I think Murtaza,
Oh
you're
yeah.
still in your
Oh
20s.
yeah.
I think I started when I was 18, 19.
Crazy. I remember that year. So yeah, tell me a little bit about yourself. I'll fact check the other thing later. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Murtaza Dawoodbhai from New York. Um, Similar story, started out from the very beginning of BBA, being a captain, during the first time it was in Chicago where it was hosted with everyone. And then just from there, just gradually seeing the progression of just talent. And similar to Amr said, like who can ball? Who's a baller out there? And then you kind of meet these guys and you can see the intensity and the competitiveness. And I remember Muslim, we played together a few times, right? That intensity, Riz, me, Ukani, me, and you played together. We had the luxury to do that. Um, but it's good to kind of see where the talent is now and what they're bringing to the table. And especially with this upcoming draft with all the younger guys, you have us who've been there for so long to kind of teach them, but also see and learn from them to kind of see how we can also improve our game. At the end of the day, as our bodies are changing, we're trying to learn that. But in reference to like just my history of the BBA, I've been a captain a few years. I've been to the finals twice. Never won it. Hoping this year is the year. I think crossing
This year's
fingers.
my year, bro. Don't worry. You got
I'm
next
Yeah.
year.
rooting for you as long as we're on the same team.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I mean, I
Otherwise,
think
I
the
don't
the
care.
beauty.
No pity.
Yeah, I mean the beauty is the intensity is always going to be there with us, right? Right. It's
Yeah.
and that's why I love it. So I'm excited for this year and kind of see what it holds for everyone.
Awesome, man. Have you guys had a chance to kind of browse through the BBA site, see the draft pool of who all's participating? Because I can tell you at first, when it was decided it was going to be in Toronto, I thought, good luck getting 50 people, and out of those, 49 would be locals. And I guess FOMO is real. I mean, for me personally, the excitement of actually going to Canada for the first time, BBA from at the very least is a reason to stay in shape. Otherwise, I would absolutely love to eat every single day without, with reckless abandon. So for you guys, have you had a chance to kind of look at all the names that last minute just piled on in? And what do you guys think of Toronto and also, the talent pool in general?
Yeah, I think playing with the Toronto guys in the city tournament and seeing the talent they have, even going up there a few times and playing with the guys in Mississauga, they have great talent. And I don't think BBA had an opportunity to see the talent they've had if they haven't come down to Chicago or to the States. But I think it's going to be exciting. It's going to be good. There's a lot of new young guys taking charge, taking the lead. So we can kind of see even the captains, what this new way the draft is. It's interesting to kind of see how they put teams together.
Anyone in particular you're looking forward to play with, or is that going to reveal too much considering your brother's a captain?
Yeah, I don't want to reveal too much. I don't know. Let's kind of see. I'm
I
open
should
to
have
play with
probably
anybody.
shut up when you were about to speak.
Yeah, I'm willing to play with anybody. It's good to play with young guys to see their point of view, see their point of view, but are they willing to also like work with us who kind of understand how the games are being played, who've been captain in the past, and can that dynamic work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw one captain's name that stood out to me is Cutlery Wella, and I
Yeah,
remember him from
color, yeah.
he's from the city tournament in Chicago, and I think like him and the other guy looked like his twin, and they were both 6 foot something, young kids
Yeah.
just bouncing around, and we're like, holy crap! And
Yeah.
I mean, they brought it,
Burhan.
and that was like a
Yeah.
little glimpse of like the talent there. And Toronto's an awesome city. Reminds me of Chicago, just good food. Um, nice people, and we're excited.
It's good vibes. It's good vibes
Yeah,
there.
very good vibes. And the thing is, the last couple of tournaments, Toronto's been lacking. I mean, it was in LA, and then the last tournament in Chicago. It's the Toronto folks haven't made it out here, so it's going to be good to see all the untapped talent. So I'm
Yeah,
excited.
I agree. I'm going to actually segue into the format of the draft. We'll spend a couple minutes talking about it, not too deep. I do want to be conscious of time here. So I had some insights and inside analysis and discussions done. So I'll just do it in no particular order, but there was some definite thought, a lot of back and forth, a lot of conversations, simulations, And I think one thing I can appreciate, irrespective of what anyone's opinion is, including mine, is that the attempt was to have as much parity and fairness and spread of talent as possible. Years past, we've had surprise picks like 7th round that are now captains, and it completely shifts the tide. That, not to say that that won't happen again. I definitely think there's going to be some folks that are maybe tiered incorrectly. They should be higher, or they're budgeting and so forth. But point being, the goal is still common, right? Having a great competitive tournament with fair teams. So how this started was there's other tournaments throughout North America. Tuft is one, which is the ultimate frisbee. Volleyball just had their auction draft last week. Cricket apparently has been doing this for years. And so they got a lot of insights from those tournaments. It was between that and a traditional snake. We've also had variations on snake in the past, if some of you remember, with free agency and so forth. But the way that players were ranked, some of it has to do with how Baidu has his, Mohammed Inwal has his formulation on the website that takes into account PER, which we know is skewed based on how good the stat trackers are, player surveys. And then they factored in things like experience, leadership, and so forth. If they're local, there's obviously a few bonus points there because they know folks we don't, right? They ran multiple mocks, and based on that, you may or may not see some names that are a bit of an outlier, but I think the mocks reshuffled a few players here and there. And I think that's smart, right? It can't just be all the best players and all the worst players and then just fill them all any which way. It has to be kind of what combinations make the most sense. The restrictions on the teams are 1 platinum player, 1 diamond player, I believe 3 gold, and then after that, free for all. And for each category, they actually have 14 diamond, 14 platinum, 33 gold. So this is an interesting one. So there was actually a flip-flop. So they actually moved 8 players from platinum into gold to even the playing field. There's 52 silver, which makes up the largest bulk. So there's going to be a very deep talent pool. And then 37 bronze. Anyone that does not get drafted, which will be approximately 50 to 60 people, will be moved on into the G League. There are a handful of players that are already pre-G League. So for anyone salivating over the 6'7" phenom, he is not going to be draftable, which I think actually evens out the playing field, because I was like, I want to either be with him or not against him. So let's see, the committee cross-reference. Okay, so here's the calendar layout, right? So we're recording this on a Monday night. The captains have between now and Wednesday, when this goes live, to reach out to players and kind of put on paper their ideal team. That then gets submitted to the committee. The committee will cross-reference to make sure 2 things. Number 1, they're within budget. And number 2, and this is where it gets fun, if a captain selects somebody that nobody else has selected, it's an automatic lock. So you have to be strategic in that thinking, right? You can't just pick who everybody wants because they're defaulted to auction, which I'm going to talk about in a second. If you get a sleeper that nobody's overlooking, he's yours. So part of the decision-making, right price, right player, right fit. If more than 1 player reach out to you or assign you as their team, you are now going to auction, and may the highest bidder win. That's where things get interesting. So Wednesday, the teams get submitted. Friday, if things hold true, the pre-selected locked-in players are publicized. So if you have been locked in with the captain, that now goes public. Here's what gets fun. I believe at that date, they're also going to publicize the tiers. And then on Sunday night, the 11th of May at 9 p.m. is going to be a live auction for everybody to watch. So from previous experience, they stated it'll be like 90 minutes long, but I think it'll be a lot of fun to see how things pan out. So that's the lay of the land, essentially a 3-step process, right? The silent period where the captains are making their teams, and then the public publication of that, and then from there, the live auction. How do you guys digest all that information, and what are your thoughts on like kind of the format, the layout, just general feedback?
I think it's pretty cool. Since we've all been doing this for so long, it's nice to kind of spice things up. It is confusing, so I'm not, I'm just kind of going with it. I'm not a captain, so I'm just kind of I'm glad exactly. I'm glad to just hoop, show up and hoop.
Yeah, I'm gonna
I think
pull
it's
up
a
the
really
list of
cool
captains while you
concept.
talk, so we can actually make some comments around that. But go ahead.
Yes, and I did see the captains, which they're young players. It'll teach them a little bit about money management, maybe. I don't know. But for
How
the
to
most
not
part, I mean,
overspend for a 41-year-old geezer.
yeah, exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think it's a cool concept for sure.
Yeah, no, I think it brings an excitement to BB as a whole,
Mhm.
and then you can kind of see if one, like you said before, were players put in the proper categories and platinum, gold, diamond, who the outliers are. Um, and it really allows the captains to say like, how much do I really want this one person? Like, how much are they really worth? Um, and that's the excitement because if you spend too much on a player, your end of the bench may be a little steep, right? Where
Yeah.
you need a bench to win this. You can't just have one or two great players.
Oh
You need an
yeah, and I
overall
mean,
team.
I mean, most championship teams have a fourth and fifth guy that are like that
Yeah,
shouldn't have been the fourth or fifth guy, right? So even the
yeah,
year I won, you know, my guys, the fourth, like Hussein Ali, I remember, and AK from Cali, they played like, one or two guys. You give them confidence, and that's kind of what separates the winning team. So this will be interesting, to see. It's always those later guys that are, however they're budgeting, or however you get those pickups. That kind of differentiates those
You
teams.
guys kind of indirectly answered this, but so since we're not captains, I think we could talk in generalities. What is your typical strategy? Like, do you believe in super teams, or do you think, you know what, I'm going to sacrifice some talent up front and go 7, 8 deep? Like, what's your thought process? And do you try to find players that can relieve you, or do you want players that'll complement you? Like, do you go in thinking, hey, look, I'm the alpha guy. I know this is my squad. So I want folks that'll kind of feed what I'm trying to do, or what's kind of your general strategy? Maybe some of these young captains can learn from this.
yeah. I mean, typically when I've been captain is it's like what are my own strengths? Like what am I capable of doing? And then I try to look at the pool and be like, okay, what's needed is based off the pool. It's hard to get. So like I always try to go for scores. Like scoring is important.
Mhm.
Rebounding and defense, I know I'm strong. That's like a strong point, so I don't rely on others to do that. So I probably pick up a bunch of guards, and then later on I'll get a big man just to kind of help me out. But strategy wise, I always try to get people who have also a basketball IQ mindset. They might not be the greatest basketball player, but if they have the IQ, it's easier to coach them and work as one compared to someone who can just,
Yeah,
who's great athletic, but I thought I can't really win everything.
sure. What do you
Yeah,
think,
right.
man?
Um, I'm kind of I'm torn. I mean, I'm more of the basketball IQ for sure, but hustle and grit is kind of my, I'll take a 5'6" guy that'll just play mean and just physical versus 6 foot whatever, and just kind of I'd rather have that as our team mantra, and my thing is if the game is close, 3 to 4 points, I'll win it, and that's kind of how I go through it. And like as long as our squad can just stay there, then just get like leave that to me, and if I fail, then that's on me, right?
It's
So that's
interesting
kind of
because
how
in a way, you guys are essentially complementing players, right? Like both of you guys have different.
Yeah.
You essentially want to pair up.
Oh yeah, the year I played with Dawoodbhai, I was excited, man.
Lucky
That
you.
Yeah, it was good.
New
Yeah.
York fierceness, and I was like, oh hell yeah, we're gonna, just me and you alone. We'll just, that's it, right? But it didn't work
Yeah.
out that year. Again, BBA is tough, right? Like on paper, it might, you
On
know,
paper, it might be great, but in
yeah.
reality, you never know what's gonna happen day
Look,
of,
I
right?
mean, I think regardless of sport, regardless of level, there's so many variables that define like, and that's why LeBron to me,
Oh
MJ,
yeah,
these guys are an exception, right? To consistently be there. I think LeBron was in the finals like 8, 9 years in a row, and his
yeah,
Yeah.
team definitely
Yeah.
changed it.
Cleveland, Miami, back to Cleveland. Yeah.
yeah.
You're changing teams, changing environments. He did stay in the same conference, but then he came back, with LA. I just boggles my mind because there's so many things that have to go right for you to win. So I'm going to spend a few minutes on something fun. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the list of captains, and let's spend like a few minutes here, and then we'll go to our
And real quick, we don't know who's like a diamond or a platinum, right? That's all. The only
so
only
that
captains know that.
should be released Friday, I believe. Now, if
Okay.
Oh,
anyone has
once the people
insider
are locked in,
information,
right? Like once that initial group is locked in.
that's the wrong one. Yeah. So I think I shared the last podcast notes. Let me go ahead and make sure I get the right one. There it is.
I might have an idea who's diamond and all this.
Yeah, yeah, I know you got some
Yeah, we
insight.
Yeah,
can kind of picture. Yeah, but
Everybody
yeah,
knows somebody, right? I can tell you,
yeah.
I know things as well that may or may not be public, but I'll reserve that for later on. Um, Here's a list of captains. Before we get into opinions and thoughts, I will shine some light on how I think this was made up. So because there's a restriction on tiers in addition to budget, um, they spread the lay of the land, right? So you have some platinum, some diamonds, some gold, some silver. I don't know if there's any bronze, but the idea being not every captain is one category, which I think is interesting. I hope when the dust settles and all is said and done, teams are fairly even. But I don't know. What do you guys think? To me, some names obviously stick out. I'll shamelessly highlight them because
Yeah.
I think they have an advantage. Oh, well, that was bad. They have an advantage not just because they're great, but they fill major needs, right? They're big, they're defensive minded, and they're also experienced captains. So I would even throw Malum in there, right? He's been like captain twice. Um, to me, this seems a little skewed towards like probably the most talented players, but these 3, 4 guys I think have a huge advantage because they've been captains before. Even Hamid probably in there, right? I don't know what tier these guys are, but that's my personal pick of folks who I deem to have an advantage. Maybe their disadvantage is they can't pair up with me or you guys.
Yeah.
But like I said, this is a deep draft. What do y'all think?
No, I think they're all great players, right? But I think the beauty of having a platinum and diamond it makes it even though if you may not be a captain, not be the elite, you still have an opportunity to pick someone in that category. So it spreads out
Let
the
me ask you
field.
this though,
Yeah.
Murtaza. If you are a lower tiered player and you select someone to be diamond and you don't land them and they go for auction and you land other players, isn't there a wisdom that Qasim Ali brings to the table that he now has locked in from the get-go to, he can build a team with his own wisdom, whereas someone else who hasn't led a team is now kind of hoping to get some experienced players, right? And the second part of that is Qasim, assuming he's a diamond, he's getting himself at a bargain. He's not auctioning for himself. He's got himself at $35, right? Whereas someone like, I don't know, I'm just gonna pick on your brother. Let's assume he's a gold. If he wanted a player of Qasim's caliber, he's gonna overpay for it. I don't know. I may be stirring the pot a little, but what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, possibly, but then it's also like, does my brother have like the knowledge and capability to be like, okay, maybe I might not get someone a caliber of Gotham, but can I get maybe two people
Mhm.
or maybe like 75%, 80% to kind of help the team, right? Because it's not
Right.
always
You'll have
about
more budget
the
to spend at the get-go.
exactly,
Right.
exactly, right. So,
I don't
um,
I don't hate this. I don't love this. I just think this is very interesting and ultimately I'm excited to see the outcome. What do you think, Amir?
I think it'll be. It just depends. So the lower tiered players or what however you want to call it, if they were tiered correctly, right? If they're tier too high, then they have less of a budget. And so they're gonna overpay. Okay, throwing out a name Hustler, right? So they're going to want to pair up with a hustler who's obviously multiple teams will want, and then they're going to overpay, but then they'll have to try to make it up on the back end, essentially. But if they were tiered correctly as a gold or whatever, or a little, whatever a bronze, right? Then
Yeah.
they have a little more money to play with. But again, I think from the get-go, it does favor Qasim, Adnan, Fatah. They were both on the same team last year, which
Yeah.
is interesting.
Yeah.
And
And maybe they'll pair
so,
up again. Oh, they can't.
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, but
Well,
again, it all depends. Again, on paper, you might have an awesome team, and come Sunday, it just those knees they don't feel as
yeah,
good. So
I think the chemistry is big too. I mean, but what do you
yeah,
guys' thoughts on like kind of going back to maybe not, you may not get that best player, but some of those players who no one knows about, and you're picking them
exactly.
up,
Yeah,
and that's like where it's really coming out of, and that's the beauty of the draft. Is can you
yeah.
find that like five, sixth, even seventh guy to take you to where you got to get to? Because the first one, two players, they're good, but it's really the ending at the end of the day. even if you do a fantasy draft, or the end players you pick that kind of take you to the championship.
Yeah, and if you're one or two kind of fall apart, and
Yeah.
that's a whole different issue, and that's kind of just next year is going to be you just look forward to next year at that point.
Yeah.
But the one and two should show up, and then it's kind of the rest of the guys. Just Sundays, it's just nuts, man. It's a crazy tournament.
I agree.
But the captain pool is really good. It's diverse, right? There's all different. There's
Oh yeah,
different skill sets. So many.
yeah.
Every single team will be different. Like every single player who's a captain's mind just be different how they're drafting.
Yeah,
And it's nice to see, because usually we know, okay, the top 12, we know who's going to be a captain usually going into BBA.
Yeah.
It loses that kind of charm. And the draft is kind of, that's the most fun part, in my opinion, unless you're winning the championship. The,
That's
the
it.
draft is fun. You're getting pumped up, and then there's that gap until the tournament. But like this adds a lot of nice
man,
little
from
stuff.
chatting with some of these guys, I know they're stressing. The ones that are competitive, and I can tell you, I am very glad I'm not a captain this year. I mean,
Yeah.
let McDodd and all these guys figure it out, man. It's
Yeah.
nuts. Quick yes or no, and then we'll wrap. We'll go to the next subject. Do you think they should restrict the tiers or just make it budget? No right or wrong answer, just your opinion.
I
Uh,
think starting out, a restriction is okay. I mean, honestly, I think they just no restriction.
Fair
I can
market,
see
right?
why
If
they
Dawson
did
wants
it.
to pay $100 for Hustler and then ride his
Yeah, exactly. I think there shouldn't be, we live in a democracy, and
do
all that. If you want to get political, just let the people do what they want. But I think for the first year it makes sense, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. That's my
Yeah,
opinion.
I think it's a good just to try it out. I mean, you could always tweak it out next year, get feedback, and then go from there.
All right, we got a lot more in depth on the draft than I thought, but it was interesting discussion, I think. So, some valuable insights for everybody watching. Let's segue into the next topic. And honestly, the part of the reason of why I wanted you guys to come on as guests, and something I think we even share as a bond, for whatever good, bad, or indifferent, is we've all suffered major injuries doing what we love, which is playing basketball. And knock on wood, we've been blessed enough to make a comeback. It's a lot goes behind the scenes to that, and I think some of the insights we could share, not only just our personal stories so that people can kind of see what we went through, but also learn from it, right? What it took, how long it took, what were the steps taken, and so forth. So I'll give a general of what I know. Correct me where I'm wrong, and let's go a little bit more in detail around it. And we'll send we'll share some pictures, some happy pictures and some sad pictures as well.
Yeah.
Kind of. So Aamir, I think you were the first amongst us three. You tore your ACL, which from what I've gathered is painful, not just the injury, but then the surgery, the recovery. Just talk a little bit about what happened, how it happened, if you had anything you could have done differently, like are there early signs, things like some of the newer guys or the younger guys can learn from? And then what was your journey like coming back? And then we'll talk about, Murtaza, what you experienced.
Yeah, so 2019 BBA, it was in Chicago. Yeah, I'll never forget that moment, but it was I think it was day two. We were playing Maz's team, and it was a normal basketball move. No one was even really guard. I had the ball, and I was crossing over, like, top of the 3-point line. And then it just knee gave out, right knee just completely gave out, and I felt like it like popped completely out. And I've never screamed like that. Went on the floor, whatever. And then I think it was Idris, Devon ran up, a couple of other physicians kind of checked it, just got me off the floor, and they did that quick check. And then they're just, obviously no one knows at that point, but they're just like, yeah, just get it checked out. But at that moment, and not I've had, been hooping since I was 4 or 5, a lot of ankle injuries and all that, but nothing felt like that initially, right? So then I was pretty down, whatever. Then got home, and there was actually no swelling. So, I was actually a little optimistic because, I started reading, getting on WebMD, doing all that stuff, Googling, and, one of the big signs is swelling and just for an ACL tear, right? So, I was like going down the stairs and I was like, I'm not gonna need surgery, right? So I use actually some Bora connections, which again our community is amazing, right?
Oh,
So I was able to get in, we were in Michigan at the time, so I was able to get into U of M hospital quicker than normal, right? Using connections and
yeah.
just before I actually got in, I was going down the stairs and I was like, I'm not going to need surgery and I'll be good. I'll just do whatever I can to avoid that,
Yeah.
right? So I was going down the stairs and I pivoted on that right knee to turn. It felt like a noodle, like it felt like
Oh,
spaghetti, and it completely gave out on me, and it felt
So
like
it
someone
hadn't torn until then.
maybe,
uh,
yeah, maybe that was the last
eh,
That's
straw,
when it
I was
started
like,
swelling. You're like, yeah, it checks
yeah, I
out.
yeah,
shouldn't have gone down those stairs, but and then at that moment, I'm like, yeah, this something's wrong, right? So we, got it checked out, and I was like, and then in my mind, I'm like, yeah, it's probably a partial. It's not even whatever, right? So they
Sure.
they took the MRI and all that. Doctor comes in, he's like, yep, completely gone, and I was like,
Wow. So take me back to the moment though, real quick on the court. Did you actually
yeah,
feel like a pop? Did you hear
oh
something?
yeah,
Was there
it felt like
excruciating pain? Like, were you
like
able to walk off the court? Like, just kind of relive that one moment. I know you said PTSD. I'm sorry, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
just so from
It
so we can
felt
learn
like
from it.
like gears grinding.
Uh-huh.
Like when you drive a car or like an older car and you like shift gears to like just messing around and it like gives that grinding noise, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
that's what it felt like in my knee. And I felt like I hear like or I heard a big pop, like a
Yeah.
pistol. It's
Do
just
you feel like
something.
someone hit you, or was it just like
yeah.
I hurt myself?
No, I just feel like it just completely like my
Wow.
knee like came out like separated from my body,
Wow.
right? And I
Oh,
didn't
that's
even I
bad.
didn't even want to look down because I was like, man, I don't do good with that stuff. So I was like, I'm
Eh,
not even look at it. But I looked and it was fine. There was barely any swelling, which I was like, okay, maybe I just over exaggerated. But yeah, that moment I was like, once I spoke to the doctor and then figuring out timeline and stuff, and I'm like, this is awful. Oh, we had a 3-month-old at the time. So my
Oh, wow.
oldest was 3 months, and then we're just figuring out, okay, what do we, getting parent help and just whatever, because the post surgery and all that, and so then it was just kind of figuring out how to get through it at that point, but um, yeah, that's kind of how it happened
Right.
essentially.
So now you're at the hospital, you find out it's fully, did you get surgery immediately or what was the situation?
Yeah, so we were able, first spoke to the doctor and they're like, we can do it in about 6, 7 months. And I'm like,
oh,
Surgery
"Whew."
date in 6, 7 months.
Yeah, yeah. So there, and it was with it was the same doctor as the Detroit Lions and like,
Sure. Oh, they
there
were
it was
just booked up.
pretty,
So this is not normal protocol. They're just saying they're busy.
yeah, like for this guy specifically, it was like, and I was like,
Wow.
through a
We'll
recommendation,
have
they
a
were
new
like,
ACL by then.
yeah,
yeah.
I was like, man, I'll just, whatever. But luckily they were actually able to get me in about 3 weeks. So they're like, as long as there's no swelling,
Right.
we'll move you up, we'll get you in. And that was amazing in itself because
Crazy.
just with family life and kid, like having a young kid, those 5, 6 months would have been awful, right?
Of
So
Having
course.
a rough.
I think that's one of the first
yes.
things like goes to your mind is like life outside of this weekend. Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, like also it was our first kids, so it was like having a major injury that early on in like child. Like luckily Yusuf couldn't walk, or it was just
Mhm.
I have this photo that I sent you that I'm just holding him. So a lot of it was like he was just kind of rolling over me. And it was, I mean, it was, yeah, that was my Halloween as D Rose
Yeah.
with my ACL tear. So I got a little laugh out of it, but it was
Wow.
yeah, so that was actually, yeah, that was October of 2019.
Okay.
And then what is it? PT, everyone I spoke to was just like, okay, it's not the end of the world, but it's all about how you PT, right? How
Right.
you hit therapy and just, if whether you want to play sports again or not, just life after basketball, if you want your knee to be somewhat functionable, then just rehab hard. So that's kind of what I had in my mind. Try to go hard on rehab, and I had a really good PT that would not let me relax at all. Like
Right.
she beat my ass, and like it was awesome. And then at a point I was like, I'm done hooping. 6 months went by and I was finally able to kind of jog. And then at like 8 months, I was able to kind of run. And so at that point, I'm like, yeah, I'm done. I'm done playing basketball. I'm done with contact sports. So then
Yeah.
at a year, I started, I was gaining weight and I was like, shoot, I need, the gym's not doing it. I need to get cardio in. And so I started running and I got into running and I was like, this is awful. It's boring. I got to like 1 or 2 miles and I'd be like, this is like, I don't know how people do it, all this, right? So I started going outside and then it actually like the kids helped out because they were getting crazy in the house, right? So Fatima was like, hey, just try to take him in the stroller and just go for a run. And I was like, all right, let's see. And like as soon as we got on a trail or anything, quiet. And I
Interesting.
was like,
You're just looking around.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so literally like I, work and then as soon as, it's like that witching period of like 3 p.m. where you're just like, we need another hour to go
Yeah, yeah.
to get through.
Yeah.
And so I take him on a stroller and I didn't realize, but it was some sort of resistance training right there, right? So I started running with a stroller and then we had a second kid and I started running with a double stroller. And then I got kind of this addiction of like, all right, it feels good. You get kind of that runner's high after a little bit. Still didn't want to hoop at all. So now we're at like a year to year and a half. So we're into 2020 COVID. I skipped BBA the following year, 2020, first BBA I ever missed. And then, once I got into better shape and running and just feeling comfortable, I did a couple races. So I did like a 5K, felt good. I did a 10K, felt good. And then I signed up for a half marathon. And that was kind of my test of like, how will it hold up?
Yeah.
And did the half marathon and loved it. Like, the day after felt good, no swelling. The knee felt good, and I was like, okay, now it's just
Was
confidence. And
that the one
then
where you were representing, or is that
no,
later?
that was the Chicago Marathon. So this is 2021 was my first half marathon.
Okay.
So and then I was like, okay, Chicago has an active Bora basketball community, and I was like, let me just sign up and just see.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
gonna drive, I'm not gonna do any of that, right? And I signed up to hoop a couple times. Obviously, just got intense again, and then but
You
I
can't
wasn't
keep it
cutting, and
competitive.
I was just literally just doing cardio, so just going running back and forth, shooting threes, whatever. But running actually was my focus, and then I was like, I'm just signed up for the marathon, so I was like, I'm gonna do it. Didn't tell anyone, not even family, not even my wife. I was like, I'm just gonna do it, sign up, and just see. And so I started training, and then it kind of got into that just got into better eating habits, better living, and
Yeah.
that changed, once I did that training and, went through that a training plan for that was, that kind of changed the physical and just kind of got me ready for another BBA. So,
So I mean, I know you got gradually into it. I'm gonna share some pictures. Like, obviously, you go from surgery to back running, right? But what?
yeah,
So was
yeah.
it just the local runs that kind of got you back into your confidence? I remember you also played with like you had like a minutes restriction, right? And obviously now you're even more active doing triathlons
Yeah.
and looking cut.
Yes,
What?
the BBA restrictions was because I had the marathon, so I played in the 2022 BBA,
I think you
and
went
then
to
the
the
next
finals
week
with Todd or
I
something,
had the
right?
Chicago Marathon.
You
So
went to the finals with
Uh,
Todd, and then you were like padding stats,
yeah, but I
if
could
I
only play
remember.
5 minutes because I was like I want to play and I love BBA, but I can't I wouldn't be able to run for that event, right? So
Right. If you're still
and
dropping
it was
20-point games on the G League, I still remember that.
oh yeah, that was oh yeah, and then I played like 30 minutes in the G League, and I was like, it's hard to stop.
That's it. The
It's hard to get
Superman
out of
thing
it.
just came off at that point.
Yeah, that was fun, man. But
But like, okay, so I want to dig in on a couple things, and then we'll talk to you,
yeah,
Murtaza. Murtaza and I had a similar injury, so I think we can share
yeah.
some stories. But I want to know for our audience, all right, like specifically PT wise, and then things you do to prepare. And do you think your injury was preventable? Just those three things. What do you do? What did you learn from your PT? What do you do now to like, make sure this doesn't happen again, right? Because it still is a risk every time
yeah.
you get on the court. And then based on those two things, do you think that this was preventable?
So I'll start with preventable, and I think I figured out my body a little better, and my weight, I was definitely on the higher end of my weight. I was pushing almost 190 and I was feeling big and I was working out a lot, but 190, I know that that's pushing. I think it's a lot of pounding on my legs. And I think that when Sunday came around, anything for me specifically, if I know that 185 and higher, I'm way too big, right? So if I can slim down to get to 165 to 170, for me and my, personally, that's kind of my sweet spot. I can run longer. I don't, that Saturday, Sunday is a little easier. So I think that could have, maybe that might have helped, definitely. But, from physicians I spoke to and all that, I've been hooping for a long time and, knees is part of its genetics and and who knows, hydration is a huge thing, right? So maybe I could have, it's just tough, man. BBA is a grind, right? Saturday is crazy. Sunday's all like, everyone's eating bananas. You're trying to get your liquid IVs in, and so it's just like it's a free for all, right? So I don't know
Yeah,
if it was preventable, but
especially doing
that's
marathons,
what
this
I'm
is a
trying to
whole
do
different
now.
beast, right? From marathons to this,
Sorry, what was that?
comparing a marathon to this is a whole different beast.
Yeah, so like, well, what I do now is it's a year-round training regimen now, right? So, as soon as BBA ends or whatever race ends, I kind of give myself a little like a cheat month, right? Afterwards. So the marathon was kind of 2022 in August. So then I gave, September the cheat month, October I kind of started up again. And then we had actually a city tournament, the Chicago City tournament
Mhm.
where, Dawoodbhai will talk about, but that was I think January, February of 2023. And
Right.
so, um, and then you're kind of looking forward to the next thing. And, I think all of us are kind of looking at whether it's life after basketball or just, you know, are we going to keep competing at a high level? And for me, I found races and these events. Yeah, I did a triathlon last year in August. So, run, bike, and swim, and that's kind of my thing now. And it's
Yeah.
I don't know. I can also speak to this. Once you start these races, they kind of there's no need
Like
to do them.
it's like it's a drug. It's like it's addiction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, you
there's
can't
no need to
stop.
be waking up at 4
Yeah,
a.m. and paying whatever $200 to run, run, right? So
yeah,
there's got to be something else driving you, and it's fun. I mean, like there's that like there's a lot of addictions these days, and
yeah.
I feel like it's a good alternative to to what
Um,
else is out there. So
last question, and then we'll go over to
yeah.
the last question. Do you think now you're back to your pre-injury, like, are you back near your peak, or do you think you can get there or better?
Yeah, so I think the like that Austin the city tournament and then I think it's the best I've ever felt, honestly. And so I think from a physical standpoint, obviously like basketball skill set, I've taken a step back, shooting and all that, but I think from a physical standpoint, I think I feel pretty good. So and my cheesy advice is that like it translates to anything, right? You go through some hardship. These injuries are demoralizing. They suck, and it took me 2 years of like figuring out if I even want to hoop and step on a court, right? But it's just like it's those day to day that no one watches and no one sees. And everyone kind of gets hurt at some point in BBA, minor or major, whatever it is, but like those behind the scenes of rehab and just keeping through it and it translates to a lot of other parts of your life where it's like you work hard and you just keep at it and
Yeah.
you'll get back to it, right?
I mean, look, I'll tell you this. Because just chronologically, right? Shabir Hussain, obviously Murtaza, like you guys for me, I drew inspiration from. 'Cause if I didn't see you guys,
Yeah.
if I didn't see your marathon pictures, if I didn't see you make an attempt to come back, I can guarantee you I would have been done with BBA. I like you talked about getting back on the court, the physical, and then you kind of were like, I'm just gonna run, and then you kind of jumped in on the Chicago. And then Shabir played the next year. And I
Yeah.
remember literally crying when he ruptured his Achilles in Houston because his wife was pregnant with number 4.
Yeah.
And I had like a vision of Kobe and KD in my mind, right? And these are like peak level athletes, and they obviously KD's kind of come back. Kobe's career never was the same. And I translated if these guys couldn't do it, and then Shepard comes back and he plays MFL. So I draw inspiration from you guys, and that's part of why I really wanted to have this conversation. People know that there's a lot that happens, right? So I'm going to turn it to you, Murtaza. I want to know from you what happened, when it happened, and then kind of the same line of, thought process. Like, how did you get over the mental rut, right? I know you took your sweet time to kind of come back, which I think is the right way. Like, there's a mental part you got to get over. Then you got to physically get over, and then you got to that's just normal life. Then there's the BBA level prep, and I think you were an absolute beast last year, and I think you're going to be better this year. And aside from that city versus city, I think it'd be fun to play together, right? I know Amir's already played with you, but so talk to you about your journey, and then I kind of want to cap it with some of my little nuggets from my experience, and I'm going to give a shout out to a few other players. But go ahead, Musa.
Yeah, so my injury happened in 2022 at the city tournament in Chicago. I think we were in the semifinals playing against, I think, the Houston guys. And the day before, I vividly remember I went up for a layup and I felt like something tear near my ankle part, but I didn't think of it. I was like a slight tear, whatever. Woke up in the morning and I was like with like Imani, I was like, dude, like my ankle feels weird. Like something is not right, but I think I'll be fine. Played the first game, second game, third game. Before my injury happened, I vividly remember I went to get the ball and I just like falls to the ground. My point of view is I thought someone tripped me.
Mm-hmm.
Then hearing everybody else is like, no, you just fell. Like, what do you mean? Like you just like fell to the ground, and that's when I realized I knew instantly my Achilles tore.
Mm-hmm.
It was like instant, just like the whole thing tore in pieces. Got up, walked off the court, whatever I could do. And then that's when I was contemplating because it was the same year I was getting married. So I'm getting married now in like 6 months as I tore my Achilles, right? Now I'm like, how do I kind of handle all this? And then you just start thinking like, like I'm so like your whole life just kind of goes through your head. Like what's my next step? Like I'm gonna do, how am I gonna get home, surgery, so forth.
Yeah.
Luckily, surgery happened with days of me coming home. I went to the doctor the next day. Everything was scheduled. Um, went perfectly fine, but now it's like I'm home for 6 months, pretty much on crutches. I couldn't move. Yeah. So this picture here is me and my bachelor party in April. So I was like, I couldn't stop not going, right? So like, there's my boot, my crutch. I'm still trying to do whatever I can do. And this is it was a good time.
How many months post surgery is this?
So this is April. This is mid-April.
And that was in January, right?
2-3 months.
This is what?
The injury was in January.
Yeah, January. Yeah, this is April. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is when I had a boot and I was probably on the second wedge. There's different wedges when you tore your Achilles when you're in the boot to elevate your heel back.
Right.
I mean, yeah. So I was probably on my like last to second wedge here. But yeah, I mean, and then you start thinking about PT, right? Like PT was like I was like all about it. The moment I tore, I was already doing push-ups. Like, how do I get my body back into it? I realized that my body isn't the same as it was 10 years ago, and I need to kind of be more serious about it.
Mm-hmm.
Did the PT, stayed at home every single day. Like that was literally what I did for 6 months. Made sure that I could walk again. Was trying to be as independent as possible. With the mental mindset, it's like, am I ever going to be able to run again? Forget like playing ball. Like basketball wasn't even my thought. It was like, how am I going to start running and jumping? So after a year, right, I started just light jogs. Same with Aamir, just doing light jogs. And I remember there's, I don't know if you know Mukram Burhani, but he's this huge,
Qasim Ali Flower Garden, right?
Yeah, he runs marathons. Yeah. Very inspirational. And I had this conversation with him. Yeah. I had this conversation with him and I was like, dude, like, I want to get back into it. He's like, you just got to start. Just start running. We'll do it together. And that was like, all right, the trigger. I can do this. Ran my first half, a year. It took me about a year and a half to kind of get back to where I was.
Yeah.
Ran my first half and then that's it. And then BBA came and I was like, I can do this. Like, I just told myself, like, I just need to practice. Yeah. So this is my last half that I just ran.
Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't join you, man. I'm just
Yeah,
Had to be,
yeah.
I couldn't make it, but
Um,
that's
but yeah,
awesome.
So
I
real
think
quick,
that
I just want to ask a question real quick. That feeling, so when I finished the marathon, I want to know your opinion too, Murtaza, but that feeling when you finished, can you just explain like that the half marathon, right? Like what
so
was
like
it?
so like the training to get there, right? It's like, like your mental mindset's like, how do I kind of get to do 13.1 miles? And I'm doing it, training, and I finish it, and I swear to you, I like finished it, and I just like stood there, and I was like, I don't know what I just did. Like how is this
Yeah.
possible? Right? And you're just like now, like in a second, you like appreciate it, and then you're like, you know what? You want to do more. Like,
Yeah.
you enjoy it, but I was like, what's the next one gonna be
Yeah.
like? And like, how can I go harder? Can I go harder? And then I was like, all right, like that's when I was like, I can do BBA again. But this BBA that I played last year, I definitely trained way harder than I did the previous ones because I knew how my body was.
Um,
Um,
are you back to where you were before your injury? Are you better? Or do you think you can get there? I mean, obviously you now have more whys, right? Um,
I don't think I'll ever get back to what I was, even if I was like in my teens, 20s, 30s. I think I'm just trying to play based off what I think my body's capable of doing. And then I'll use that to my strengths.
mhm.
I think the intensity, the mentality is all there, but I need to I understand my body now
Yeah,
and what I need to kind of do to prepare, like even like the night before BBA, I was in my room stretching for like 2 hours before
right.
going to sleep, right? I had like a proper meal, woke up in the morning, an hour before everyone, stretched again, like the whole, making sure I'm doing the proper training. But yeah, would I love to get back to myself? Of course, but I don't think I'll ever be 100%. Uh, but I will be like mentally and prepared uh, as best I can be.
I agree. So I'm going to, first of all, appreciate you guys for, sharing your story. I'm hoping folks take what we talk about seriously. Um, because number one, nobody should take their body for granted, right? I think this is a treasure that we have. And it's fair to say for all of us, including myself, there was something off when we got hurt. Most of us were day two or late into the tournament. Most of us were not in peak condition. Um, and I think there's a correlation between that, right? My experience was I used to go through a loading regimen on um, ibuprofen, not for the pain killing, but for the anti-inflammation. And what happens is the side effect of having anti-inflammatories in your body is you do numb pain. So if I had any kind of pain receptors telling me something's off, like you said, you felt a partial tear the day before, I had nothing, right? And the reason I was doing that was obviously the anti-inflammation, but also that year, people don't know this, was I had a hairline fracture in my hand, in my shooting hand. So I was actually icing before the games. And the first game I played was Hustler. All right, guys. Thank you guys for sharing your story. I know I was trying to wrap it with a few golden nuggets for our younger players, our players that have been blessed so far to not get injured, to not take that for granted. I wanted to give a shout out to some players that I know have had similar experiences and have also bounced back. Shabir Hussain, I mentioned his name a few times. I don't think he even understands how much I appreciate him. He actually sent me stuff, boot, equalizer, and so forth. Um, you know, Hosey, I know he went through something crazy, incredible, and he bounced back real fast. My brother-in-law, Firozbhai, Zakir's dad, for most of you that don't know, he actually hurt himself playing basketball in Houston at a tournament, and he's bounced back with 7 screws in his foot. So just blown away by his resilience. Sizzle, we hope to see you here in Toronto. I know you've suffered an Achilles as well. Um, you know, the Achilles hits differently because obviously some big names have gone down as recently as Damian Lillard. When I saw that news, man, it just rocked me, right? It's just like reliving that moment again. So I hope I hope we can all kind of collectively, bounce off of each other and lift each other up. Tahir Hamid, I saw him fracture his ankle in front of my eyes. Ghadi Bai also had an ACL like you, Amir. And everybody's, balancing these injuries, the love of basketball, and then life. So for everyone watching, take care of your body, play within your limits, and don't take this for granted. Anything you guys would like to add? And I've got like a burning question I've got to ask you before we part ways.
Oh, so thank you, man, for giving us the time to talk. I hope everyone listens to this, and just get some good advice, and hopefully it helps even one person. Then it's all worth it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. Definitely. Thanks for having us. And again, like we stress it every BBA, but again, even whether it's networking, whether it's
Yeah,
rehab, whether it's just these little tidbits, we see each other once a year. That's a special part of this tournament, versus, you're just hooping at a local rec tournament where you don't have any ties to the people. You see, you form a brotherhood, you see these guys and you want to see them back on the court competing with you, obviously. But um, it's a great tournament all in all, and just it's good that we can share with each other.
It's a blessing to be able to play. It's a blessing to be in this community. You nailed it, Amir. I mean, we've seen literally someone come back to life on the court, right? In Chicago.
yeah.
And we're lucky to have physicians as friends, and a tight-knit community. So let's end on a happy note. Who you got winning the NBA chip? I'll start with you, Murtaza, especially considering tonight's big win by the Knicks. You got them winning it all the way?
Yeah, I love the Knicks, and I think Celtics taking it, man.
All the way. You got them winning the chip.
I think they're winning it, man. If they're healthy, they're unstoppable, man. You're not gonna stop.
Interesting. What about you, Amr?
I think if Ant-Man gets through Steph, no one's gonna stop him. And I think he's
Really?
he's at that level of, like, man, the way he played LeBron last series, like he's got that mean kind of that vibe to
The
him where,
swagger.
yeah,
Yeah,
I like
he's got
that.
that old
So
Pistons vibe,
yeah,
you know?
definitely. And if
Yeah.
it's like an Ant-Man versus Knicks finals, that'll be interesting
Oh,
because
that'd be good.
the Knicks are physical too. So we'll see.
Look, I don't have a
That'll be
dog
a
in
good
this fight.
contest.
Watching the Rockets lose last night was a punch in the gut because they kind of brought back vibes of the 2002 Detroit Pistons. Um, but don't count out OKC, man. Let's see how they do the first game. Again,
Against Nuggets. They're playing Nuggets, right? So let's see.
yeah. Yeah, is that happening right now? I'm not don't spoil it for me.
I think so. I don't know the score. I'm
Okay,
sure it's
maybe
over
I'm
right now.
dead wrong, but I
At the
think
tail end
OKC
of
is a
it.
pretty well-rounded team. I know they're a little young. But cool. Cool. I got nothing else. It's late for you, Murtaza. So again,
Yeah.
last thing I'm going to say, this is a time commitment for everybody that joins, right? So I hope you can appreciate what it takes. There's a lot of preparation. We've had multiple calls and notes exchanged to make sure we put on as much of a meaningful, impactful program for you. Take some notes, learn from this, and hopefully we see everybody healthy in Toronto. Good night.
All right, guys. Later.